Hi, I'm Corey, and I'm doing the overview of the skeletal system video. First, I'm going to split this video into two parts, so I'm going to be doing the axial part first. We'll start with the cranial area. We got a few different bones on the actual top. You got the frontal bone, you got the two parietal bones, you got the occipital bone in the back, and you have both temporal bones on the side. Those are the bigger bones of the cranium. Also, you have the sphenoid bone that is on the outside over here on each side, and also in the back of the orbital socket as well. And you'll also have the nasal bone right there, and right inside that you will have the lacrimal bone and the ethmoid bone, and then even behind that the sphenoid bone, as I mentioned before. In here you'll have bones and small bones such as the crystal galli. And on top of the skull, you have a bunch of sutures that are types of joints, movable joints that will keep the skull together. You have the coronal joint going across the top, going from front to back. You have the sagittal suture. Then you got the lambdoid suture in the back, right here. You have the occipitomastoid suture right over there as well. And the bottom portion over here is the mandible, and on top of the mouth is the maxilla, and there are alveolar margins for all the teeth as well. For the side of the mandible, you got like the mandibular ramus, the mandibular notch all the way up there. You got the mandibular condyle right there, and right above that you'll have the zygomatic bone, which is like the cheekbone, and then you got the process that goes into like the mastoid process and the styloid process of the ear over the side. The bottom of the skull, if you took the skull off, the like biggest foramen in the body is the jugular foramen right in the bottom. It's just a massive hole in the bottom of the skull that fits the spinal cord into, and you have the atlas right on top, which is the first cervical vertebrae. It is a lot wider than the rest, that you can tell. Every vertebrae, including them, will have a superior and inferior articular facet besides the atlas. Right below the atlas, you will have the axis, which has the dens, which sticks up into the atlas, and you'll also have the things sticking out posteriorly are all the spinous processes, and then you'll have transverse processes on each side as well. When you get towards the bottom, you have 7 cervical, 12 lumbar, and 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, and then you got your sacrum, which is the bottom portion of the spinal cord that they are actually fused together. They're not actually separate. You got the posterior crest, or like medial crest right here, and then if you saw it from the inside, it's a little more fused, more like ridges instead of actual like crests. And then right in the bottom portion you have the coccyx bone, which is your tailbone as well. And the last part of the axial skeleton is the thoracic cage. You have the clavicle isn't technically part of it, but it connects to the clavicular notch on the sternum. Then you have the jugular notch right here as well. Then you have this part right here is the manubrium, which connects to the sternal angle, which is the body of the sternum pretty much. And then you got this little thing, the pointy part down here is the xiphoid process. You have all of these ribs as well. So you have true ribs, which connect to the spinal cord, the vertebrae in the back, as well as the sternum in the front, and those are true ribs, and there are 7 of those, and then you have 5 false ribs, which all of these, which connect to basically other ribs rather than the actual sternum, and those are connected by costal cartilages and intercostal spaces as well. And then you got the last 2 right down here are the floating ribs they are articulated with the transverse processes and articulations of the vertebrae, but they don't actually connect to anything at all in terms of the front of the sternum or other ribs. So that is the axial skeleton.